It's Friday, folks. It's our Friday food for thought. And I am half in the kitchen because I am going to whip up a little winter warmer while we talk through today's topic, and maybe give you guys a couple ideas around some things. We're talking about beating winter through your plate. So how do you protect yourself a little bit better over the next few months as it gets a bit cold and the sniffles come? What we can do, the role nutrition plays, and we know how important it is, and what we can kind of do in that space to try and keep things firing as they should and keep us nice and healthy. All right, so that's what we're going to chat about today. Swipe in, let me know who is all here, how things are going, how your week's been. Hopefully a lot of you have signed up for a challenge and we're going to kickstart them on Monday. Looking forward to them. I've got my new nutrition one, which is shiny and squeaky and a little bit different to what we've done in the past. I'm really looking forward to that. We've got a nice bunch of people signed up for that already. So hopefully you are one of them if you're here with me. If not, maybe one of the other challenges. I'm doing Jono's Go for Gold. I get 3 weeks of training in the lead up to our workout at the end of the month. So good excuse, because winter is just about excuses. So we need to put things in place to try and keep us on the straight and narrow, because winter wheels can fall off a little bit. Nutrition is one part of that. So there'll be a couple of things here that maybe spring to mind in terms of what you can focus on. Make sure you're on track. Have a plan, have a little bit of knowledge, have the skills, practice some things, and see where you can maybe work on over the next few weeks and months until the sun shines again for us. So quite a few people are saying hello. Christina, how's it going? Paula Santos, how are you? Kat, haven't seen you around for a while. You've missed too many ads, you say. Well, nice to have you back watching or listening to this one. Lisa Marie signed up for Strength 2. Nice, good. Laid a foundation with Strength 1, I assume. Now looking to go a little bit level up on that, which is brilliant. That Strength 2 one's going to be a good push. Jolene, been a while, but you're back with us. Nice to have you with us. Pat Govender, how's it going? Nicole, happy Friday to you as well. Davida, how are you? Brilliant. So everyone is hopefully finishing their week strong. It's Friday. We've got sort of another day and a half until we can take our day and a half off and get a little bit more flexible. But tomorrow morning's workout, make sure you're there, get it done today. If you haven't done it yet, get your session. And Sunday you can keep active and have a little bit of an active rest. Let me know what you've maybe got on the menu for the weekend as well. It's always a fun time to get into the kitchen a little bit, spend a bit of time, and also do some meal prep. Alicia Reed, looking forward to this. Judith, how's it going? You guys aren't in winter up north, though. You might be having as close to balmy weather as you get in Scotland at the moment. But thanks for checking in. All right, guys. So what I'm going to do, we're going to talk about, obviously, beating winter with nutrition. I'm back. Don't know what happened there, but I am back at least. So, guys, sorry about that. I don't know if there's some load shedding bugs or some internet bugs, but at least it's all sorted now. So what I'm going to do is jump into a little prezi that I've got for you guys. So we're talking about beating winter through your plate, and I'm going to touch on a few different aspects of what that all kind of means. But firstly, the comment or the topic that often comes up here is, I want to boost my immune system. And you hear about immune boosting things and this and that, and using this kind of phraseology. And it's one that actually annoys me a little bit. So I've asked the question here is, can you boost your immune system? And the answer to that really is no. By boosting it, for some reason, it makes us think that there's a problem with our immune system. There's something that we can enhance out of it. We can take it to another level, which isn't really true. So I look at it more as things that we can do to support our immune system. The foods that you eat, if anything, you can maybe by doing certain things depress your immune system, which I'll touch on that a little bit. So there are things that we can do to avoid suppressing our immune system, putting undue stress and risk on the body. And then there are a few foods that we can try and incorporate that might have a bit of a role to play in terms of how everything functions, but your immune system's going to work, right? Unless we are pushing things too hard, avoiding certain things, or maybe taking a bit of a chance at something. And winter's the time that gets highlighted, because not because it's colder necessarily, but because we typically indoors, we're not moving around as much, we may be a bit more exposed to some bugs and things. And if we're adding on top of it, trying to keep training, which we want to do through winter, it just exaggerates how important nutrition is to prevent us forming big gaps between what we want to be doing and what we are eating. So we can definitely support our immune system. We can definitely put it at risk, but I have something against trying the kind of the term of immune boosting. All right, so I'm going to avoid that, and hopefully after this as well, you guys won't avoid it. You'll just think of my food is nourishing me, playing an important role in my defense, but there's nothing really that's going to take it to another level. We just want to try and mitigate as much as we can and add in a few things that might be deficient, and then we can win in that way. All right, so prevention is better than cure in that instance. So maybe the 5 most important things to consider before we get into the little nooks and crannies of things that can play a little bit extra. First up on the board is total energy, so total calories, total kilojoule intake. This is most probably the strongest determinant of your body's defense system. And why that's the case is if we are in a calorie restriction, if we are dieting, that can suppress our immune system. The longer that goes on and the bigger the calorie gap between what we're burning every day and what we're eating from our food, puts the body under a lot of stress. When that happens, it doesn't create the immune cells that your body needs to ward off things. You become a lot more prone to infection and illness. There's also a lot more strain on the gut at times like this, and the gut is the first barrier in terms of immune function. So if we are very calorie restricted, and particularly for quite a while, that's most probably the strongest marker of how well you're going to be able to fight off illness. Right. So if you're training hard, it's important your calorie gap, if you're trying to lose weight, isn't too big, because you might be someone who picks up colds and flus and infections, respiratory tract issues a lot easier because of that. So make sure that you aren't under eating, essentially, that you're following a decent plan, that you know what your portions are, and you may be on track with that. If you've been dieting for quite a while and getting sort of someone who picks up an infection or a cold or a flu quite easily, you might want to look at just increasing your portions, increasing your calorie intake a little bit, so that gap's smaller. You may be still losing weight, but you're just not as prone. You don't want to lose training days. You don't want it to affect other aspects of just quality of life, really. So make sure that that's on track. Something that's sort of secondary to that and might mitigate some of the damage that an excessive calorie restriction can cause is your protein intake. So we get away with some things if we're eating enough protein. So if we're dieting and we are under a restriction, but we still are able to get in a high amount of protein, and because protein provides all the building blocks that your body creates immune cells from, as well as has a few other aspects on hormonal production, gut health and gut integrity, that protein can help as another defense mechanism to making sure that your immune system is functioning well. All right. So if you are calorie restricted, trying to lose weight through winter, make sure that you're focusing on your protein amount. It's just going to help keep things up. All right. Carbohydrate intake. So it ties into total energy a little bit. Excuse me. But what we see, low carbohydrate diets are normally or more frequently used at the moment to reduce energy and lose weight that way. They become a lot more popular, obviously. But with that becomes the risk of a depressed immune system. When your carbohydrate intake is down, normally that means your total energy is down. Your body doesn't have the fuels and the substrates to fuel everything else. So what it ends up doing is breaking down all sorts of other cells at the same time, and your immune system can get compromised because of that. So very low carbohydrate diets do increase risk of infection and illness because of that reason. And when we tie into that we might be training quite a lot, it exaggerates that risk. So if you're training quite a lot, if you're doing more than perhaps 60 minutes a day and following a low carb diet, going into winter now when typical illness rates increase, the risk of infection is going to bump up as well. So have a look at that, see how it goes. Are you maybe pushing the carbs a little bit too low and picking up colds and flus too regularly, particularly if you're training a lot? It's something to kind of keep in mind. All right. Fat quality can also help how well our immune function, our immune system functions. And through this, the fat quality that we're talking to there is mainly around inflammation. So you'll hear things like omega-3 and omega-6 being spoken about. And omega-3s are the types of fats that are less inflammatory than omega-6 fats. So a good thing to focus on pretty much all the time, but winter just highlights us talking about this, is trying to get in enough omega-3 fat so your body's defense and inflammation system is under control. It's not exposed to something and over responds, and we see an excessive amount of inflammation from that. So through winter and for the rest of the year, make sure your fat quality is on point, not too many saturated fats, because that's another pro-inflammatory source of them. All right. Alcohol, the last of my 5 main aspects to focus on for prevention. A high amount of alcohol intake is going to depress the immune system. So a little bit of alcohol, moderate intake, keeping it for your day and a half is cool. You don't have to cut it out entirely, but just be aware if it is quite frequent, it is another aspect that can drop your immune system. All right, so those are the 5 things to kind of think about. See where you maybe fall, if any of those are risk areas for you, and you can look at ways of kind of improving them. All right. Then a couple things those are mainly sort of on the macronutrients and total energy level, so the bigger influences. Then we get a few smaller influences as well, and still looking at ways that we can prevent instead of cure. And the 4 or 5 areas here that I think are worth talking about, and one of them is vitamin D. Kelly mentioned here that you're getting some vitamin D in while listening to this, so loving a bit of winter sun, and you're helping out your immune system as well. So vitamin D is one of those vitamins that we're learning more and more about all the time, but having a deficiency or an insufficiency in vitamin D can expose you to greater risks of infections and illnesses. All right, so if your vitamin D's level is normal, taking more is not going to help. But if you do have a deficiency, it's something that's possibly worth looking into. It's easy enough. You get a blood test done, you can check what your levels are. Normally, going into winter, your vitamin D level is also cyclical because most of it comes from sun exposure. And Kelly's lucky enough to be getting some sun at the moment. But if you're indoors, maybe training, and it's still dark because we don't get to train in sun hours anymore. It's the main time that we're sort of outside. Obviously, hours are shorter that the sun actually is around through winter. But we've got less vitamin D exposure, even though we're in South Africa. Northern Hemisphere as well, it's an issue because of the distance from the sun. So we don't get the same ability to produce vitamin D. Normally through winter, if there's anything I kind of talk about something that's worth supplementing, vitamin D might be one of them. 500 units of that a day is a good kind of banker for it. If you've got a deficiency, you might need 10 times that a day, but you'd only do that after a blood test. You can have it checked out, but try get any sun that you can when you can. If you are someone who gets colds and flus through winter as well, I'd say it's worth taking 500 units of it as a supplement because it can just help and helps prevent the deficiency forming through winter when you don't get that sun exposure. Zinc is another one. Again, if you don't have a deficiency, not a problem, but zinc very critical to how the immune system functions. So if your zinc is a little bit low, you're not getting much in from dietary sources, or naturally levels are just a bit low, we can look at that as well. But if you're getting in protein, like we focused on the last slide, you should be getting in enough zinc. So if you get enough protein, and zinc is in a lot of our animal products, as well as seafood, which is great. So you can get it in naturally, eggs, dairy, and all of our meats and things. So make sure that you're getting your protein, and you should be able to tick your zinc box as well. Vitamin C, normally the thing that we think about through winter, and not likely to have any real impact on prevention. So I have said here that prevention is better than cure, and that's the main reason we use it. But it seems, if anything, it might just decrease the duration once we get sick of sort of how long it takes us to get back to full fighting fitness. So have a look at it. If you're someone who takes vitamin C, that's fine. It's unlikely to be doing any harm unless it's really, really high doses. But if you do get sick, both zinc and vitamin C can help how quickly you recover from it. So they're two things to kind of keep in mind. All right. Probiotics and fiber. I mentioned right up front that your gut is one of the most important aspects of keeping your body healthy. It's your first line defense. So you get exposed to pathogen or bacteria or virus or something. Normally the first way in is through the gut. So if your gut integrity is compromised because either gut health is just poor, chronic calorie restriction increases that, maybe there's foods that you have a tolerance issue again, but they're still common in your diet, your gut's not so happy, things are going to get into your system easier. All right, so it's important that we look after that. There are some things that help with that, and probiotics is one of them because it helps the bacterial balance in the gut, either through supplementation or fermented foods, yogurts and sauerkraut, and these things that are becoming kefir and things that are becoming a lot more popular these days. We don't often get exposed to naturally fermented foods, which is why we end up relying on a supplementation instead. And fiber plays a similar role in that. So while we always talk about plant-based diets, getting enough fruit and veg in as being critical for vitamins and minerals and all that, but it's also the fiber that's so important, because how that plays a role in maintaining good gut health and good gut integrity. So make sure you've got enough fiber coming in. If you need to add a probiotic, fine, good, why not? It's again unlikely to have any sort of negative impact, so you can incorporate that if you need to focus on a little bit of gut health. All right, so those are my 4 or 5 tips of things that will help in terms of prevention, and a little bit of cure as well if you're going down that route. Okay, I'll have a few more minutes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a quick recipe which speaks to this next slide. Have a look at that. A little golden milk. And a lot of people were asking about things to do for sort of winter meals, and we've got loads of things coming out and recipes, and our cooks and things are going to be in the space. But I'm going to show you how to whip up one of those real quickly and get a couple functional foods into there. You can use a dairy milk if you want to. Typically, this is made with coconut milk or almond milk, or maybe a combination of both. Coconut milk, quite high in calories and fat. So I'm going to use some almond milk, all right, unsweetened one because it's nice, sort of low energy liquid, but you still get a little bit of flavor. You can also use a little bit of both if you want to. So 2 cups almond milk, oat milk would work as well, Lisa Marie. So you're just going to add 2 cups of that. Into a pot. So 500 mils of whatever milk you like. Then I've got a lovely little mixture here. Okay, so you'll be able to see there's a teaspoon of turmeric. There's a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. There is about 1/2 teaspoon of grated ginger. And then I've got a little bit of black pepper. Okay, so that's all just going to go into that pot with your milk of choice. And pop it into heat. And that's just going to simmer away for 5 to 10 minutes while we finish the chat. And it'll be ready once we're done. You can sweeten it with whatever you like. So if you want to keep it pretty much void of calories, you can do an artificial sweetener if you want to. Typically, it gets used with maple syrup. I didn't want to break the bank buying some maple syrup. I'm using some honey. So just a teaspoon or 2 of that in there. And you're going to give it a little mix around and then just let it simmer away while we finish our chat. And then I'll show you what it looks like at the end. Yeah. And that's that. So in a couple of minutes, going to have a nice, spicy, warming liquid that has a little bit of functional properties to it. And the last thing I'll chat about there is turmeric, in terms of my marvelous 5 foods that we should be trying to eat a little bit more of through winter. And I'll tell you why. The first one is garlic. I mentioned this maybe in a couple of cooks, but garlic is a fantastic food in terms of helping to support your immune system. All right, so we do need to have a fair bit of it to actually have an impact, which is a clove 2 to 3 times per day. So you might need a couple cloves. But if you're not afraid of garlic, it's great because it's going to help with your immune system. And it's because of an active ingredient in it called allicin, which is a sulfur-forming compound. It's the reason why garlic smells like it does, is it forms a sulfur-containing gas. So that's obviously what you pick up. Allicin's formed when garlic is crushed, sliced, or chewed. So you can't have it whole. It needs to be crushed, sliced, or chewed, because that's what activates allicin that's in there to form this allicin, which is the active compound in it. Interestingly, if you microwave it, it actually destroys this. So you can't microwave your garlic, but you can either have it raw or you could do a fermented version. I am not winning with that today, but I'm back. So just keeping you guys on tenterhooks while we're doing it. The garlic has this active ingredient that's really good in helping to modulate your immune function. So if it's a food that you like, great. If you don't like it, I'm not going to tell you to start having it. But it is really, really good. So you can do a couple bulbs of them that you've crushed and you roast off when you do something. Don't be afraid to chuck it in when you're doing a soup or a stew or a bolognese or, one of our recipes. Fantastic option to almost eat every day. And if you really want a food-powered way of trying to support your immune function, get the garlic in there. All right. Onion, part of the same family as garlic, is a separate type of polyphenol called quercetin, which is the active ingredient in there. And garlic and onion, obviously, they play well together in most dishes. So when you're frying things off, you're starting your base of a lot of foods. They do really well in terms of their flavor together, but it also can help support your inflammation and immune function. So include it, have it. Similarly to garlic, you can make a little extra of it. You'll see if you caught up with Tony and I on Wednesday night, a little pickled onion, you can keep that in the fridge, keep it going, and just add it to some foods for some flavor and crunch and different things. So the 2 white vegetables that we often think of, or we often don't think of, when we're trying to get our sort of rainbow of colors or our 5 fruit and veg a day. Your garlic and onion count this, and this is part of the reason why. All right, so try and form your base of a lot of your meals through winter with those. All right. Mushrooms are fantastic, and particularly the king oyster, very high bioactive properties. Mushrooms in general, so you can use a wide sort of variety of them, but particularly the king oyster. We haven't quite been able to, or the research kind of show what and why and how they sort of work, and a lot of it comes from Eastern medicine and using sort of oysters around that. But the king oyster is really, really good in helping to support your immune system as well. And not only that, it's delicious and it adds flavor. So that umami flavor that I mentioned, you're looking to get like a meatiness into something. Mushrooms are fantastic at doing that. You find the nice big king oysters, you can make a good looking steak. It'll almost taste like beef even. You can get some great things into them. So mushrooms of all varieties, all different kinds, whatever you can find, try to get those in this winter, and it's going to make a good addition to your kind of fighting off winter through your plate. Seaweed is another one, an interesting one, because of its chlorella content, which is another nutrient that supports your immune function and inflammation. Another thing that we can include. So the 4 things that we've mentioned so far speak quite well to just having a look at them here. Something like a nice little Asian broth, and we can get them all in there together. Loads of nutrition, nice little sort of bang of flavor. And we know that we can be doing some things. It's warm, we've got everything in there, and we can get a good option of things. So seaweed, get some dried seaweed, nori leaves, something like that, and you can use those for a little bit of extra. You could do some of the sushi that Tony did, that low carb sushi she did a few weeks ago. Go check out that recipe. Nice way to get some options in, and another great food to try and include through winter. Then the last one, which is boiling away behind me, is turmeric, and that's because of its curcumin content, and another really powerful antioxidant. So turmeric, we can have a couple nice curries through the winter, and it gives us a nice yellow color and a deep flavor. We could do the sort of golden milk like we're doing now, so it not only adds color and flavor, but also another modulator for your body's immune function. So be careful. It stains your hand, and it stands and stains the counters, so it gets everywhere very quickly. But it's a lovely sort of deep richness that helps to also keep you warm and feeling nourished through winter. Interestingly, curcumin is very poorly absorbed unless it's with black pepper. So the pepperine compound in black pepper helps your body absorb curcumin better. So if you ever take a supplement of curcumin, it should or normally will come with that black pepper compound as well, because your body doesn't absorb it very well, but when it's taken at the same time as black pepper, that absorption's much better. So that's why we've got a little bit in there. The recipe we did Wednesday night as well, with those lovely skewers and everything that Coach Tony was doing, we had some black pepper in there as well for that reason. They play very well together, not just in terms of flavor, but in terms of the physiology of what's kind of going on for that. All right, so that is my marvelous 5: garlic, onion, mushroom, seaweed, and turmeric. So my challenge, I think, over the next few days is going to be putting those into one recipe for you guys. And that Asian broth that came to mind, I think will be a lovely one to start with. Kat, you love Asian flavors, and a broth for winter will be magic. Exactly. So warming, all of those pack some flavor, and also not very energy dense. Loads of nutrition without too much energy, which is great. Kath, challenges on to get us a great. There we go. Exactly. So you read my mind, Kath. I am on it. Keshal, garlic is best with roast veggies in the oven. It is. You just leave them in their cloves, roast them off there. Remember, you've got to crush them to activate that active ingredient, active compound that's in there. So just squash them once they're done. That's going to help activate, although you also chew it, which is going to help with that. And that's one way to kind of get it done. All right. Kat, how bad are the pre-chopped garlic pots? They're quite, the taste is something that's quite different. I wouldn't say they're bad in any particular reason, except that they are a potentially hazardous food. So because of other things that are with garlic, people can be much more sensitive to them. So particularly in terms of, we've chatted about this in some cooks before, but like the garlic hangover, which is real, those ones that you get in the little pots, more predominant in that way. They are quite rough in terms of a place that bacteria can grow. So you just got to be careful with how long it's been in the fridge, how long you've kind of left it out the fridge for, that sort of thing. But you know, if it's an easy way for you to get a little bit of garlic in, cool. Christina, the spice mix again. So it was 500 mils of whatever your liquid of choice is. I used almond milk. Then you've got 1 teaspoon of turmeric, a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, a little pinch of black salt, black pepper, and then I used a little bit of ginger, just some grated ginger, just for some flavor. You could also throw in some cardamom. You'll see there's a little cardamom seed on that picture up there. You could flavor it with a few different things, but the main thing is 1 teaspoon of turmeric, 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, pinch of black pepper. All right, and then sweetener of your choice. So I've put a little bit of honey in. You can use maple syrup, or you can use a calorie-free or low-calorie sweetener if you want. Good reminder, let me check on it. Right. It was close. We almost, look at that color. See that? Smells so good. That's all done. And we can turn them off. You put a bit more on there, it's a little low. See? So that, can you see in there? You zoom in there for us, Candace. You can bring the other one up. If you're with me, let me take this one out. There we go. Oh, I don't want to pour it onto my computer. Almost. There we go. But it smells great. You get that turmeric, so that earthiness, the nice liveliness from the ginger all in there. I don't want to taste it. It's going to burn my mouth. You can see how hot it is. I'll give it a minute, but that's going to be lovely. Super quick and easy. You can do a double batch like that. Just kind of heat it up, have it a little bit extra once you're done. But you've got a nice low calorie, if you've used almond milk version, loads of flavor, loads of things that'll warm you up and kind of keep you happy and healthy through winter. All right. Pat, ginger fresh is great. You boil it with your milk and turmeric. Essentially, that's what this is. You could use coconut sugar as well, Keshel. Obviously, just make sure that that fits in with your goals. Obviously, with the sugar, you're going to be getting energy, calories from that. So just make sure it ties in with what you want. Davida, you need to make it. It'll keep you nice and warm. You can have that more than once a day, definitely. So at the moment, the only little bit of calories in there's the little bit of honey that I added. The unsweetened almond milk's quite low, so you don't have to worry kind of too much about that. So it's just whatever you add to it, make sure that fits in with whatever plan you have in terms of what you want to follow. All right. Cool. I think Jolene. Cool. So it's about the challenges. Cool. I'll chat to you about that. Okay, sure. Great. Guys, hopefully that was helpful. Gives you some things to think about. Start with the bigger picture in terms of total food intake, protein and carbs and fats and what's going on there. Then you can think a little bit more about fiber and probiotics and maybe zinc and vitamin C and whatever. And then lastly, sort of my marvelous 5, I'll post a recipe. That's my challenge over the weekend. Garlic, onion, mushrooms, seaweed, and the turmeric, which we've covered already. You can see, there it is. So that's my tips for the week and food for thought for you guys. So hopefully it is helpful. Guys, enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend. Get that session with us tomorrow. And make sure you signed up and ready to go for a challenge so that we can kick it off on Monday. It's an epic round of them coming. And then we've got 3 weeks to build up to our Go for Gold workout. So I'll be seeing lots of you guys over the next little while. Have a good one. Till next time. Cheers.